Thanks for joining, folks. We're just going to let the room populate. We'll start very shortly. All right. Tēnā koutou. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to our Nuralite supply chain webinar. This is a little bit different. We'll be a little bit more informal and just basically having a conversation around about the issues that we're facing with supply chain and hopefully some of the solutions that we can provide to you. 2nd of December 2021, so getting very close to the end of the year, only a few more sleeps till Christmas. I'm joined here today by the Managing Director John Simmons, who has a real head for facts and figures, so that's why we've got him along. He pays the bills ultimately. I think that's why he remembers them all. So welcome, John.
Thanks very much. Let's crack into it.
Yeah, sure. All right, so for those of you who don't know, most of you who are here today do, but Nuralite import waterproofing materials and have done for the last 55 years. So a little bit of history here that over the last decade, obviously things have flowed like clockwork. You know, importing things has been a relatively simple and economical procedure, and we've all done it for the last 10 years, and it's been pretty simple, really. Delivery times have been consistent, and then we've had a bit of an upset recently. There's a multitude of things that have upset that. So I guess what we're sort of seeing now, and is not unique to Nuralite, it's I guess we're seeing it right throughout the whole industry, aren't we? Throughout the whole country.
Well, throughout the world.
Yeah. So what we're seeing now, and you are probably seeing as well, is that costs are fluctuating, obviously going up and hopefully down as well. Delivery times are random. We're going to show you some graphs later on that show you sort of what our typical lead times used to be and what we're currently facing, and basically outline a few things that we don't even know. So we'll get into that. Now, have I picked everything we need to pick up on that one? I think so.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of this webinar, hopefully, the reason why we're giving this is so that our customers can appreciate some of the challenges that we are all facing, because we're in it together, and help us get a good result, because ultimately we want to have product ready for our customers to put on roofs. And by working together is the way we can overcome the challenges that we're seeing. And it's not a transitory thing. This is actually a fundamental shift. Like, we've had a decade of predictable, and even the last year it's been pretty predictable, but in the last 6 months the wheels have really fallen off, and we'll take you through it. All right, so the next slide is we're just going to give you a bit of a walk around the Nuralite and show you our facilities and what we do. They say you shouldn't go and visit the insides of a sausage factory, but we're going to risk it and show you what we get up to. So we're going to play a video. Hopefully it's not too laggy at your end, thanks to the internet. So you'll get the idea. We'll pause the video as we go along just to point out a few things. So I'm going to flick into that. Thanks, Jay. All right, so this is our, I guess, the mothership facility up here in Auckland at Mount Wellington, 60 Leon Lester Ave. We have about a 2,000 square metre landing bay there, so it's registered. Yeah, thanks. Quick. Yeah, so it's about 2,000 square metre landing bay there. It's a registered transitional facility, so we're directly importing the goods from ship to our facility. It saves us a few days, doesn't it? Yep. Waiting for other people to have to transship it and things like that. So as well as this facility, we also have about 1,000 square metre warehouse in Christchurch as well. And we have 3PL facilities out of Wellington. Just another comment. We obviously filmed this in COVID restrictions, and so on the left-hand side we've got bays so that people can pick up their stuff. So they're ordering all their products online, and then they come in and it's totally contactless. We put their product in a certain bay and they come and pick it up. And you can actually see on on the right hand side, we had about 4 containers. We can actually unload about 6 containers at one time. Yeah, that's when the facility is really humming.
Yeah, no, it was really humming that week, that's for sure. Nice to see those containers rolling in. So I'm just going to carry on from here, Jade. So yeah, a little bit of a look into our high stud warehouse. So recently installed some pallet racking. So this, I'm going to pause there, Jade. This particular warehouse is around about 3,000 square meters, 11-meter high stud. Recently put in some pallet racking on about 1/3 of the floor area. So where we used to be able to store about 270 pallets on the floor, we're now up to, we can now store about 990 in the same floor space. So that was a big step for us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very new. And we learned a lot in this process, haven't we?
Yeah. I mean, back in February of this year, we obviously we could see issues occurring. We had product stuck in Tauranga for about a month or 2 and ran out of Nuralite as a result. And that's when we made a call that we really needed to ramp up our stock holdings, that we couldn't rely on the delivery chain to smoothly get it. So as a consequence, we've invested in this racking and really ramped up the amount of stock holdings. So you can see there, well, getting towards 900 pallets of product. And when we zoom around the rest of the warehouse, you'll see the other things.
Yeah, so that gives us sort of the remainder of the floor area for now to gives us the remainder of the floor area to stock things that are bulk, like our insulation board and things like that. Here's just a quick example of if you can see the red wrapping around the pallets there. So as we'll probably touch on later on, but these are actually all pre-sold. What this enables the client to do is to confirm the price, and obviously they've confirmed the stock as well. All these things are relatively new to us. You know, the last 10 years we haven't had to do it. So it just arrives on the day when they say it does. We don't have that luxury anymore. So having to improvise and adapt to meet the customer's needs. Yeah, just a bit of a flow through the warehouse there. Oh gosh, I mean, who knew that you needed building consent for shelving? That was a
just pause it again
there.
Oh, we're going to pause there.
Yep, there we go.
So there you can actually see our PIR insulation board. We stacked that 3 pallets high in the warehouse, which is one of the great benefits of having the high stud. We're actually quite light on PIR because November there was a big rush on it, so that's relatively modest stock holding of it. We normally would have all of those rows filled with insulation board.
Yeah, you can also see our other insulation type products there just to the right, the rock wool bales.
Yep.
There's all sorts of everything in there. So this is, yeah, again, just more shots of the warehouse, and our mate Quinton here driving around on his electric forklift picking orders. This is an example here of, this is 1 pallet, is that right? 1 pallet of PIR board being loaded by Rod Southwood. So it's a very careful delivery, whoever received that one.
Who knew he had a forklift license? But he does.
He does.
He does, and a high vis.
Oh, good.
But yeah, that actually is quite a good shot of a pallet of material. So just so you know, in a normal 40-foot container, we would fit 10 of those pallets. And if we were looking at 80 mil board, that would actually equate to about 300 sheets of in a 40-foot container.
So 300 sheets in a box, in a 40-foot box. Wow.
Another satisfied customer.
Yeah, satisfied forklift driver too. We'll look at him. It's pretty chuffed. All right. So that was just a bit of a brief look around. Hopefully the video wasn't too laggy at your end. Hopefully when we get this whole red light, green light thing sorted out and everyone understands it, and you know, welcome to show you around when we get to that point. Just look on to the next slide. Right. So as I touched on earlier, we mentioned that obviously previously the last decade things have been relatively predictable, which is the bit in the yellow here. and then obviously we're now in that red zone there. So I get John to sort of explain a little bit more what's happening there, and might have to call out some of the numbers there.
Sure. Yeah, it's a bit difficult to read. Basically, that's looking at our two main suppliers, and what we're looking at is the number of days between when we place the order and when the product is received into our warehouse. And so on the left-hand side, the axis plots the number of days, and in the yellow zone, you could see that it was somewhere between 70 and 90 days. Jade's got the cursor at 90 there. So it was taking between 2 and 3 months for stuff to arrive, and those suppliers are coming from Europe. Yeah, and you see we can get product arriving basically every month, and it was really quite predictable. Come forward to February is when we started hearing about issues in Auckland and Tauranga. You can see actually the blue line is when the stuff got really stuck in Tauranga. Really shot out. And of course, if you're moving, if you're carrying about, say, 2 months worth of product, and it takes 2 months longer for the stuff to arrive, you don't have any product, right? So
that's right, yeah.
That's what that chart, that chart is showing us. When it's in the red zone, it's really starting to challenge your whole inventory system.
Yeah.
And yeah, you can see the extreme. That last line, we've gone from what, about 120 days out to 175 days. So you're talking about, instead of taking 2 to 3 months, you're taking 4 to 6 months for stuff to arrive, which is literally outside everyone's control.
Yeah.
There's no one you can call. There's no one you can call in Europe, and there's no one you can call in New Zealand.
No, and we've called them all.
Well, you can try, but yeah, you'll get a response. But so, and to highlight the stuff that's just arrived on the extreme right, at the very high top, that product got unloaded in Singapore, transshipped, which is normally a couple of day thing. It will come from Europe and get transshipped in Singapore, and it sat in Singapore for 4 months. I don't know how there's that much space in Singapore because there's thousands of containers stuck in Singapore, but it is. What I understand is, from comments I've heard, is that we've got issues with ships coming from Singapore to New Zealand and then just being taken off the route.
It's not a particularly attractive route, is it, from a shipping perspective, to ship from Singapore to New Zealand, because the backload's typically empty.
Yeah, so they have their, we would be like, hopefully there's no Invercargill listeners, but we would be like the Invercargill. And so you fly the main route, and then you have to put on a special flight down to our friends in Invercargill.
Yes.
Love your work down there, by the way.
Great. Yeah, so yeah, that was just explaining showing you some of our delays, which John mentioned are outside our control here. So combined, I mean, that was just the delays we're talking about. So on top of these delays, we've accrued some incredible costs, which is just, as you can see, go off the chart. So correct me if I'm wrong, John, but we're looking at a world, a global index of shipping prices.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, anyone can Google it. That's what I did. And I've never done it before because there's been no need to. Because it was always pretty much the same price for a decade. Then COVID hit, and we started to see a rise, but not too bad. At the beginning of this year, we saw a bit of a rise. This was that first plateau there.
Yeah.
That's in about April. We managed to just absorb that. We just kind of bite the bullet. There's been some funny kind of situations happening with that. We bring in product from Malaysia, and it was cheaper to put those installation products in a refrigerated container rather than a normal container.
Yeah.
So we were refrigerating the product that we're bringing in rather than, I don't think they turned it on, but as I say, it was literally 30% cheaper to put product in a refrigerated container than a normal container. So that's how messed up everything is.
Yeah.
And then in the last couple of months, we've seen a really dramatic spike. For me, it's a bit like a tsunami. We've seen a surge approach. and now we're being really smacked by the wave.
Yeah.
It could be like a tsunami, if I drag my analogy out, it could be that the wave's actually going to go out and we're going to recede and come back to a more normal point. Or it could be that there's another tsunami coming. Like, I really, well, if anyone knew, let me know, because I'll bet. Go to some futures market or something. To put this in context, so it's not just a straight chart, we're in New Zealand dollars, that's all in US dollars, and New Zealand dollars bringing stuff from Europe to New Zealand is adding about 18,000 Kiwi dollars to a 40-foot container.
And what it used to cost?
Well, about 5,000.
About 5,000.
So it's gone to about 23,000 Kiwi dollars to bring a 40-foot container to New Zealand. Now, that's not too bad if you're bringing in product that comes to, say, it's $100,000 worth of product. It would be, if you're shipping iPhones or something, it wouldn't be a big deal. But if you're shipping a lightweight, high volume product,
like insulation,
or bubble wrap or anything like that, it's going to have a huge impact. And so now we're seeing that the shipping cost is actually as much or if not more than the product cost on some lines. For example, like a drainage board. Again, is lightweight, taking up volume, but relatively cheap. So that's having a huge impact. To give you a real drill down to the numbers, that 18 grand movement, we said before, you get 300 sheets in a 40-foot container of 80 mil PIR. It's not rocket science to take 18 grand. You don't have to be Rachel Riley to work out that it's 30. What's my number? $60 a board.
60 bucks.
18 grand. I'm not Rachel Riley.
Maybe we did Rachel Riley.
$60 a board is a net cost change.
So the cost of the actual product itself hasn't gone up that much. Obviously, it's the cost of the shipping is what is the real effect is on that product. And unfortunately,
well, to cut you a wee bit there, but all of our suppliers' costs have gone up, not by anywhere near that much, but because they're shipping in raw materials as well, and so their costs have all gone up. And so it is literally a dominoes effect. So everyone's putting their prices up, and the shipping's going up, and so everyone's putting their prices up again. And there's lots of raw materials that I guess that's the other thing we didn't touch on the last slide. We've had products where they just don't have the raw materials. It just hasn't arrived for whatever reason. Again, it's unheard of. And so we've got some product lines where we just can't source it. It's not available. So fortunately, that's not in our core lines. These are getting into the niche areas, but it does show you the struggle that everyone's having.
And it's obviously amplified more of an effect down here in New Zealand because it's sort of the last stop before the end of the world. All right, so what have we done? As you could sort of see through the video there of the warehouse, we've really ramped up our stock holding. In order to do that, we've had to install pallet racking. We've got, the place in Christchurch is relatively new. The 3PL in Wellington, we just really have to increase our stock holding. Like I say, there invested in some pallet racking. John, do you want to explain this forward ordering we're doing to suppliers? How that works?
So ordinarily, we used to place an order. Basically, we'd place it on once a week. We'd have a look at our stock levels and we'd place an order, and they would just go and then they would book the ship. What we're now doing is we're actually looking out over the next 6 months and placing orders so that our suppliers can go and book a slot on the ship, and they can also put our demand into their planning so that they actually have product available when we need it.
This still doesn't guarantee us.
It's not full guarantee because it turns out that the shipping companies can literally make it up on the fly. So we've had issues where stuff has been booked and say from out of Antwerp, and they just pull the ship, and then the next ship next week is now another €1,000 to book your container, and they will just repeat. So it's about trying to do everything you can do, but acknowledging that sometimes that's going to be defeated. At least you're trying.
Yeah, and another thing we're trying to do, of course, is focus on project forecasting. So obviously, myself and the Nuralite team, we're trying to talk to our applicators, trying to talk to our builders, just trying to get some level of forecasting. I think historically we've always had stock, and it's always been relatively plain sailing, and it hasn't been such an issue to highlight. But forecasting projects is hugely beneficial for us. And obviously we have that payback, and it'll be beneficial for yourselves, the builders, and I guess the clients at the end of the day as well. Your cyclical pricing, John, do you want to explain that one?
Yeah, again, what we've traditionally done in the past is set a price normally around April or something like that. Okay, well, you know, we've had these cost pressures here or there, and we've just a price, and then for the next year, we've just kind of absorbed any swings and roundabouts, provided that the exchange rate didn't move too much. And that's the other factor which we haven't discussed here, but fortunately exchange rate's been fairly steady throughout the whole COVID thing, so that's been a saving grace. But what we have to do now is look at our price every month, and I'm hopeful that the shipping costs will come down, and then we can actually adjust the price down, because it's painful for our customers, it's painful for us. I mean, we really are not happy about
not at all. No.
So we're going to be looking at it on a monthly basis and tweaking the pricing very regularly, and so people have to bear that into their planning. Right?
Yeah, and that comes back to the forecasting as well. You know, if we can forecast, we can probably be able to try and get the right price, if that helps.
One other change that we've made, actually we didn't put on the slide, is we used to store stuff in Dunedin.
Oh, yes.
We used to have a 3PL site in Dunedin. We actually had to drop that site because the shipping companies just added another $10,000 on a container to go to Dunedin over sending it to Christchurch. Again, I presume just because they just didn't want to sell to Dunedin. So they just said, well, it's going to cost you to do it, which made it wholly uneconomic.
Absolutely, just totally cost prohibitive. So hence why we dropped I didn't mention the 3PL in Dunedin, because we dropped it, and everything's going into Littleton, into Christchurch by Littleton. So
hopefully we can go back when things go back to normal, but it obviously puts a price pressure on everyone.
So those are a few things that we have done to try and help smooth the bumps and whatnot. Here's just a couple of suggestions and a couple of things that we think that our customers can do to help respond. Like I said, historically, we've always had stock, and the price has always been the price, and it's all been plain sailing. I think it would be safe to assume that the product will not always be available and will not always be exactly at that same price. I guess it comes down to quotes and things like that. We've seen examples where quotes have had ridiculous times on them. You know, someone submitting a tender or a quote with a 12-month valid period on it, which is you're really creating yourself an issue there if you're doing that sort of thing. What sort of precautions are we talking about in that second one there, John?
Well, the first thing is you can't just assume that you can keep behaving the way we did and everything will go all right, right? And just like we made changes to our operations in February to mitigate the impacts of the disruption, we're suggesting our customers do the same thing. So the precautions are the four kind of listed below there.
I don't know if you recall back in that video, we had those pellets that were wrapped up in red. We arranged payment from the builder. Again, locks in the price, locks in that stock availability. So
I guess we're seeing a bit more of it than we did before, getting quotes from us. That gives you some confidence. We can give you a price window. It's not going to be a huge price window, but maybe it's 60 to 90 days, so that for example, our applicators, if they come and get a quote, they then know they can go to the builders that this is the price. It doesn't mean that it's going to be available.
No.
Okay, so that's when we get to the next one, which is communicating project timelines. so that we can put it into our planning. And then we get into the bigger ones, which is if you have got a serious sized project, and we're talking $100,000 plus. If I was the customer, I would be wanting to indent those products, right? And that means I know what prices, because that's part of the indent process, and I know that it's going to be available because they've gone and ordered it. Now, it may take 90 days, it may take 120 or 150, but at least I know that it's going to be there. And even if I just do that for the bulk of the job, of course, I don't necessarily need to do it for all the little side things, but at least I know that there's going to be membranes in lay.
Particularly if we're talking about the weather envelope of the building, it's probably an important piece to get on top first.
Exactly.
You know, if there are delays for things internally, we will know that that's not going to be detrimental to the build, you know. And
then, as you mentioned, the last one there is arranging off-site payments. A lot of contractors have been reluctant about that in the past.
Previously,
but now we're seeing that that reluctance has been outweighed by the risk to their project. So for us, it's a really simple process. Anyone can come and inspect the products, so they know it's theirs, right? So
yeah, that's right. We've actually, funnily enough, got a main contractor coming in today to look around.
Maybe we'll get them some muffins and feed them.
That's the story.
Now, questions. We've got 3 minutes because we've talked too much.
We have. All right. So anyway, that was us talking about our supply chain issues, some suggestions on what we think you guys can do, and obviously what we're doing to try and adapt to this current situation. I got just a couple of questions here that have come through on the Q&A. Where do you import your products from?
Okay, pretty well everywhere. The main stuff, the insulation board, is coming from England and Holland. Membranes coming from Belgium. We're getting other product from America, quite a few different sites in America, some Central America, and stuff not Central America, within the mid-America, not Central America, but from the middle of America, and that's actually been really problematic because you just don't seem to be shipping any trucking. The trucks seem to have disappeared in America. We get stuff from Asia, from Malaysia, Italy, so we've got it across the whole world, and everywhere has had problems. And there doesn't seem to be a way to avoid it. You can't just go, oh, we'll skip out Singapore. Because it's global, endemic,
absolutely global. Another quick question here: why don't we source New Zealand-made product?
I mean that's a good question. For me, this is showing some challenges, but actually, if we were, for example, try to manufacture TPO membrane in New Zealand, you would have to build a massive factory, and when you go to these factories, they're literally the size of a rugby field. They're bigger than a rugby field.
They are. I mean, one of them we went to in America was over 2 kilometres long and sort of half a kilometre wide. These are not small facilities at all, you know.
Obviously, the raw materials would all be imported, so the reinforcing would be imported, plus all the chemicals to make the product would be imported. So we're not solving the supply chain unless you're using a product, making it out of wool or something.
That's something that was local.
And then the other factor is quality. And the issue around quality is you get really good when you make something and you just repeat it every day, 24/7. So the plants I go to, like that anything board in the background in that photo, the plant is just pumping it out. And I've seen them when they start the lineup, and they literally throw it all away.
That's the quality is not there. But they're doing it's like your first batch of pancakes.
They always, great. But so the quality is not there if you are stopping and starting the line.
That's right.
You're not getting to fine tune it. And so in New Zealand, I'd say their TPO demand in New Zealand would be about a day's production.
It was. I mean, we went to a factory over in the States where they had this state-of-the-art machine. I mean, we didn't cover that. There's the cost of the machinery to make this product as well. The machine's been running for 8 hours continuously, and in that time, it's actually enough membrane for the New Zealand market for a whole year. So, just that scale of economy that we unfortunately don't have down here. So that's why we don't import New Zealand made products.
And again, we're actually selling systems now which are actually have a number of components to it. So it's like, well, to actually try to manufacture a warm roof in New Zealand is just mind-bogglingly complex.
Yeah, well,
it's just not possible.
8 to 9 different individual components, you know, it'd be difficult to manufacture all those.
Right, any more questions?
Nope, that's it from them. So that'll be it from us. So yep, that was Nuralite today, talking about our supply chain issues, what we're trying to do to stem the flow, and just some suggestions on what you guys can do to help yourselves, help us. I mean, there's a total symbiotic relationship between us, the builders, the applicators, the client, at the end of the day. If you've got any other suggestions, we're really keen to hear them.
Yep.
So pop them through. Yeah, no, that's it from us. We'll let you get back to your day. Thanks very much for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.